Hi, my name is Jessica, and I researched about health complications and specifically what occurs during space traveling and what you might need to prevent, and future investigations about NASA is going to do.
And I'm Rohan Press, your principal investigator and political consultant. I specifically examine the economics of space travel, the emphasis we've put on the field in the past, and the extent to which we should prioritize it in the near future.
Hi, I'm Kate Wilson, and I'm the news host for our program, and I research the historical and political significance of space exploration in NASA. This is KGR News, and I'm Kate Wilson. NASA recently released a report that several astronauts have been diagnosed with severe health complications due to their extended absence from Earth. Let's hear from our reporter Jessica, who is live from DC with the story.
Thank you, Kate. What happened was that when they came back to Earth, astronaut muscles wasted away on long flights, reducing their capacity for physical work by more than 40%. In simple terms, that is equal of a 30 to 50-year-old crew member's muscle worsening to that of an 80-year-old muscle. This happened because in zero gravity, muscles shrink rapidly. The body perceives that it does not need them, so the muscles that were used to fight gravity can only lose around 20% of their mass if you don't use them. For bones, the loss can be even more extreme. Not only that, but the blood pressure rises as well and have an effect on heart. Now, the losses don't matter if you're coming back to Earth. However, that is not our case, so when they came back to Earth, the body has to readjust to the pull of gravity. The doctors are hesitant that the astronauts will recover. The real question is it worth it?
Wow, that is truly alarming. We hope all the best for these astronauts as they are trying to heal. Space exploration not only causes severe health crises, but it is also extremely costly. Let's learn more about this with our guest from NASA, Dr. Rohan Press, and his assistant, Ms. Young.
Thanks, Kate. You're right, space exploration requires significant finances. It often seems as if this money could be spent in more concrete fields. However, space exploration projects have actually decreased in their relative cost over time, and as we invest in space exploration, we actually are able to discover technologies that enable us to be more cost-effective in the future. But still, projects like the characteristic space race between the US and the Soviet Union likely cost us a total of $23 billion, a huge sum.
How does this compare to other fiscal investments?
Unfortunately, the federal government has recently donated less annual funds to space exploration. The two NASA governmental projects of the last 20 years, the Bush administration's Constellation program and the more recent Space Launch System project, invested 0.3 and 0.16% of the annual federal budget respectively. These projects are certainly quite costly on their own, but when considering the depth of our budget, it is clear that our government is not avidly investing into the field of space exploration to the extent that we have in the past.
What is the history of space exploration?
Space exploration's origin can actually be traced back to the Second World War, when a Nazi German scientist, Werner von Braun, launched the first human-made object into space, the V-2 rocket. During the early Cold War, Russian scientist Kerim Kermov launched Sputnik 1, the first man-made satellite. In the Cold War, the US and the USSR used their characteristic space race as a non-military way of competing with one another for influence as a global world power. In this way, space exploration's origin in the United States were influenced by the political world heavily.
Not only did the space race evoke an American desire to show off the splendor of their emerging technologies to the rest of the world, as evident in our endeavor to travel to the moon, but it also gave many individuals hope for a better world and society in the future. More recently, the development of the International Space Station as the first permanently inhabited low Earth orbit system, or LEO system, brought together many different nations and political entities. Now the United States has entered a period of relative stagnation regarding space exploration. While without doubt some impressive accomplishments have been made in the last 20 years, our interest in the realm of space exploration has seemed to decline.
How has this lack of emphasis influenced society?
It's undoubtable that space exploration has had a direct correlation with the development of pioneering technologies that directly impact society. A few examples include infrared ear thermometers, artificial limbs, ventricular assist devices, and even the Warp 10 high-intensity LED unit used to treat muscle cramps and joint pain. It is likely that more such technologies could have been developed had we placed a greater emphasis on space exploration in the past. In my opinion, however, the overarching value of space exploration is in our future, not in what we could have been. Understanding our universe is key to our future as a species, especially as our resources here on Earth are continually depleted.
How does space exploration benefit us?
One example that comes to mind is the immense amount of revenue that is generated from the application of NASA technologies to general society. This revenue often more than recovers from the costs of the government-funded program. Others further argue that humankind's only course for natural expansion would be through space exploration. Regardless of the reasons, space exploration is heavily supported by the U.S. population, with a vast majority of citizens stating that space programs are a long-term good investment.
What are our goals in the future?
There are many potential routes we could take. I personally would support a more data-oriented approach to space exploration in the near future, collecting and analyzing details of various cosmological phenomena. I believe that such data collection is an important and necessary preliminary step before we begin to think about actually supporting human life beyond the LEO. Of course, we must remember that all of this is only possible if we publicly support and invest in space exploration for many years to come. So we discussed many fields and many aspects of space exploration, including the history of space exploration, the economics, our future of space exploration, and then of course how it impacts society. But one quick point I wanted to really bring up at the end is that investing in space exploration has really always benefited society in the long run. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, it's always led to the creation of investment of technologies and whatnot that benefit society. Space exploration has always been a non-military outlet. Nations like the US and the Soviet Union have used to compete with one another in a non-violent, productive way that benefited both societies. Economically, with the technologies that are developed using space exploration, really there's huge economic benefits. There's obviously social benefits that come from those technologies. So at the end of the day, it is very beneficial to society. And that's why I believe that we should invest in space exploration. Thank you all.